volume. Okay, so I'm going to preface this, whatever you want to say. I'm not a biblical scholar whatsoever. So last night, I can't sleep. I'm fucking strolling through YouTube, and all of a sudden a video pops up, and it says Psalms 137, verse 9, chapter 137, verse 9. And it says, "Happy is the one who seizes your infants and bashes them against the rocks," right? And this guy, who's obviously an atheist and has anger issues and whatever, put this video out. Like, look at you Christians doing this shit, right? And the evil book and all this other bullshit. Well, I'll get into it in a second. I took that, okay, well, he's an atheist and he obviously believes in the progressive agenda, but it piqued my interest. So I got my study Bible, which a nice guy gave me, and I looked at it and I was like, well, sure shit, it says that. So I got my other Bible out, and because I didn't know there were so many different versions of the Bible. My Catholic version is in a box right now somewhere, so I have no fucking clue where that's at. But sure enough, it says that. Psalms 138, verse 9. Happy is the one who takes the babies and smashes them against the rocks. Different little here and there, idiosyncrasies, semantics. And he says, well, wow, y'all really believe that? Well, from the evil book, right? The ungodly book, which is the Bible. And yeah, I'll be the first one to tell you, there's some fucked up shit in the Bible. But is it taken out of context? And you have to read the different chapters. You have to read the verses before it to get context. And if you know, each psalm is written by different people, and some of them say anonymous, and some of them actually say who wrote it. But most of them are just little letters that are written anonymous that somehow made it into the Bible. Well, why is this man telling people, Christians, to bash babies up against the rock? So I dove into it, and basically the Babylon, or the people therein, took this man captive, right, after a conflict of some sort, and they found out he can play musical instruments. So they're saying, "Oh, hi." They're saying, "Oh, hi, hello, captive, whatever, amuse us by playing your musical instruments." And he's saying, well, dear God, don't let me play for these people, da da da. But he's obviously being held against his will. What's going on? And so here it is, you have a man that survived a conflict of some way, that is being held against his will as a prisoner, and is asking to perform for the very people that evidently decimated his village, right? Or his tribe, and he's an Israelite or Jew. And he's basically saying, oh God, give me vengeance and let what happened to my people happen to theirs. Because in the ancient world is not as nice as people think about it, even recent history as far as the peaceful Indians. What's the fastest way to eliminate a culture? Is you kill their young, make sure they can't reproduce, just wipe them off the map. What's the fastest way of dealing with an infant? Bash them up against a rock and chunk them in the river. Who gives a shit? People did a lot of bad things throughout the history of mankind. But the whole Christians, the evil people that we all were, if we truly believe take your enemies and bash them against the rocks, I think everybody would know this at this point, right? Because we're such violent individuals. And I thought, well, what's the modern day equivalent? So I thought, well, abortion. Well, this guy's obviously a progressive atheist and hates society, so I did ask him a simple question, and I'll put the receipts, as they say, in the photos on my post after I make this video. A guy held against his will after what happened to his people. He's asking for God to deliver his enemies the same way he was delivered to his enemies. Wipe them off the map. Bash their kids against the fucking rock, right? Problem solved. Because he won't perform for the very people holding him captive. So I had to take it back to modern day, and I wanted to ask a simple question, because the fastest way of finding out somebody's illogical and obviously serves a political agenda is ask them a simple question. The progressives that are much smarter than everybody else can't handle the truth or statistics or facts. So be it. So I asked them, do you support abortion? Okay, killing babies, whether you bash them against the rock or in the womb. Let's go there, right? Do you support abortion? I do. But if you don't, you don't. And his response was, I do. But if you don't have to get one. Well, I can't get an abortion because I can't get pregnant. Men can't get pregnant. I do, but if you don't, you don't have to get one. That's why we have brains to make decisions for ourselves and not follow the evil crime book, the Bible, right? The evil crime book. Wasn't that kind of funny? You're calling Christians out in this video for being evil people that believe in an evil book that are killing babies, but I ask you a simple question about the murder of innocent children, and do you support it? And he says, I do. Funny. That's not taken out of context. I asked him a very specific question, do you support abortion? And he says, clearly, I do. And then I thought, well, I'll keep this going and ask several other questions like, Israel, Palestine, and so forth, and keep going with it. And he never responded after that. But if I don't support abortion, I don't have to get one. But if you don't believe in religion, you don't have to believe in this shit, right? You don't have to. Why do you spend so much time attacking it? You don't support it. You think it's evil. Then why do you spend so much time bashing it? Why do you go out of your way to make enemies and provoke people for a political agenda? Well, if you don't support abortions, you just don't have to get one. Well, if you don't like Christians, and if you don't have any appreciation for the Bible, you don't have to get a Bible, and you don't have to go after Christians. But it's okay to attack people as long as they're predominantly men, predominantly white, and predominantly Judeo-Christian beliefs, right? But here's the biggest hypocrite calling people out that are Christians, that you obviously support this because it's in your Bible, of bashing kids against the rock, babies against the rock to kill them. So somebody simply asks you a question, do you support abortion? I do. Period. But if you don't agree with it, you don't have to get one. Well, how is it if you don't agree with the Bible, you specifically go out of your way and bash Christians and bash the Bible and make false allegations and take things out of context because you're mentally superior and believe in a political agenda, but yet when that person calls you out and asks you, do you believe in the murder of babies, you say, I do. And this is coming from somebody that's obviously atheist, obviously a progressive, and has a political agenda, right? Or maybe I'm just fucking missing something and don't get it. But you look for logic and you look for a debate, and one side just simply can't do that. And I don't know everything. I picked up a Bible, started reading, got another Bible. Yeah, it says something kind of similar. Watch a couple of YouTube videos about why is this guy saying this. And it's context. What's happening in this guy's world at the time where he would make such a statement? I can't say why it's in the Bible, but then whenever you bring it into the real world, and you ask somebody, well, do you support abortion? He says, and quote, I do, period. So out of the two people, one saying, look at these evil Christians that believe in the murder of babies and how fucked up they are and how evil the book is. But then when you ask him, do you support abortion? He says, I do. So who's more evil? A Christian that never knew about this verse, that has never killed a baby, or somebody that is actually supporting abortion while claiming a superiority in that they're not as evil as the person that they're calling out? I hope I simplified that, but a guy held against his will because something tragic happened to his group of people, and he's begging God to deliver his enemies the way he was delivered into their hands. And yet, it's now all of a sudden something this fucking old. Obviously, it's the Bible, and obviously this debate's been going on for a while. But the progressives grabbed a hold of this shit and go, "Look at this! The Christians believe in killing babies." But then you ask somebody, "Do you support killing babies?" And he says, "I do." Oh well, that's all I've got to say.